Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Niners surveys of more than 70 league executives, coaches, and scouts. The people who build rosters for a living. The people who watch film on this position group for hours every week and know exactly what value looks like from a professional standpoint. Christian McCaffrey is the fourth best running back in the National Football League per their consensus. He ranked fifth last year. He climbed a spot in a year when everyone was writing his obituary. And somebody, one anonymous league executive with a ballot and a memory, voted him number one overall. Number one, ahead of Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs and Saquon Barkley. In 2026, at age 30. Think about the company CMC is keeping in this ranking. Bijan Robinson is number one, 24 years old, the most electrifying runner in football. Coming off a season that put him in the hall of very good conversation before his contract even gets expensive. Jahmyr Gibbs is number two, 23 years old, 39 rushing touchdowns in 3 years while splitting time with David Montgomery, who just got traded to Houston. Meaning, Gibbs is about to see 300 carries for the first time. Saquon Barkley is number three, coming off a 2,000-yard season with the Eagles, where he was the best player on the Super Bowl champion. And McCaffrey, at 30 years old, finished his own 2,000-yard season last year and still ranks above Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, James Cook, Devon Achane, Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, and every other running back in football. The league was not done on McCaffrey during the bilateral Achilles tendonitis. The league was not done on McCaffrey through the injuries of 2024. And the league is apparently not done on McCaffrey now. But here is the part of the ESPN story that matters most for 2026. Because the ranking alone is not the full picture. The anonymous NFC executive quote that ESPN included in their write-up is actually a blueprint, not a warning, a blueprint for exactly how the 49ers need to use McCaffrey this season. The executive said, "He has declined some. He will see more juice if he doesn't have to be the focal point of both the run and pass game. But he's such an elite overall player with versatility who takes care of himself that he can be a top guy for at least one more year." The crucial phrase is if he doesn't have to be the focal point of both the run and pass game. Because in 2025, McCaffrey was exactly that. He led the entire NFL with 413 touches. 413. On a team where the wide receiver room was devastated by injury and the offensive line was ranking 29th in rushing yards before contact at just 2.04 yards. McCaffrey was absorbing 3.9 yards per carry, his lowest full-season average since his rookie year in 2017, because there was almost nothing in front of him before contact. The offensive line was not winning at the point of attack. He was creating those yards himself through contact balance and vision and pure physical excellence that very few players at any position in football can replicate. And he still got to 2,000 yards doing it. That is remarkable. In 2026, the circumstances are different. Mike Evans changes the offensive calculus in a specific way. When Evans commands safety attention on the perimeter, which he will, because that 6'5" frame in the red zone is simply not double covered effectively without compromising something else, the alignments around McCaffrey in the run game become more favorable. The linebackers have to respect Evans underneath and dribbling vertically. The safeties have to honor Evans in the red zone. And that creates the crease that Kyle Shanahan's zone run game is designed to exploit. George Kittle coming back healthy adds another dimension. The offensive line with Trent Williams and a hopefully improved interior creates a different environment for what happens before contact. And Kyle Shanahan himself signaled this offseason that McCaffrey's workload is going to be managed with 2026 and beyond in mind. He will not absorb 413 touches again. He does not need to. The supporting cast is better. the load will be lighter. And a lighter-loaded CMC is the version that actually generates the juice the NFC executive is referencing. Now let's talk about the full ESPN roster ranking, because the top-line number deserves honest examination. Mike Clay at ESPN ranked the 49ers 11th overall in his comprehensive pre-camp roster evaluation. 11th out of 32 NFL teams. Above average. Not elite, not a top 5 roster, but a legitimate contending-level roster that has more upside than the ranking might initially suggest. Clay identified the 49ers' biggest strength as quarterback, not the offensive line, not the wide receivers, not Nick Bosa. Quarterback, Brock Purdy's continued strong play combined with Mac Jones's solid performance in relief duty last season, is what Clay called the top position strength on this entire roster. That analysis is backed by data that we discussed at length last week. Purdy ranked 6th in PFF grade despite missing 8 games, 3rd in the NFL in passing grade under pressure, best in the league in pressure to sack rate at 9%, and among the highest accuracy percentages of any qualifier. He threw 20 touchdowns in only 9 games, a pace that Clay compared to Matthew Stafford, who was the best touchdown passer in the entire NFL last season. That comparison is meaningful coming from an analyst who does not throw around historical comparisons casually. And Clay's identification of quarterback as the strength says something specific. If the 49ers are 11th overall and the quarterback is the best thing about them, and the quarterback is one of the 10 best in the world at his position, then what you are looking at is a team whose ceiling is considerably higher than number 11 suggests if the other position groups perform to their potential. Clay's identified weakness is interior defensive line, and this is where the honest conversation has to happen. He cited the 25 combined sack number from last year, last in the league, total team sacks, and specifically called out Alfred Collins and C.J. West, who tied for the second-worst PF grade among 115 qualified defensive tackles in 2025. That is a damning statistical line. But there is critical context. Collins and West were playing the majority of their first NFL season under a new defensive scheme without Michael Williams for a significant stretch and without Nick Bosa for the entire season. The numbers they produced in 2025 reflect the circumstances of 2025, not necessarily what they become in year 2 with a full off-season of NFL preparation. Year 2 is the year most young defensive linemen make the jump. It is not guaranteed, but it is a reasonable expectation. And the addition of Osa Odigizua addresses this weakness directly. Not completely. You cannot add one player and magically fix a unit that ranked last in sacks, but meaningfully. Clay himself acknowledged the Odigizua trade with a brief note, but moved past it faster than the impact deserves. Odigizua's pass rush win rate in the 84th percentile among defensive tackles last season means he is beating his blocker at a rate that places him in the elite tier of interior rushers, even if the sack totals do not fully reflect it. Interior pressure does not always convert to sacks. It converts to faster throws, disrupted timing, and windows for Bosa and Romello Height on the outside. And Bosa himself, coming back healthy for the first time in 2 seasons, is the variable the entire defense hinges on. Which brings us to the X-Factor question that Clay and Seth Walder and the STSF show all converge on. Though from different angles, Walder identified Mike Evans as the X-Factor, noting that Evans will be 33 before the season starts, played only 8 games last year with Tampa Bay, and that his open score, which measures separation ability, dropped from a 91 to a below-average 46th percentile in 2025. That is a real concern. A 33-year-old receiver who showed separation decline last year now in a brand-new offense is a genuine risk. If Evans is not what the 49ers are hoping for, and the word hoping is doing real work in any sentence describing this acquisition, then Ricky Pearsall and Dejon Stribling and Christian Kirk have to carry a significantly heavier load than projected. The counter is everything we saw at OTAs. Evans was in the building for every voluntary session. He was giving pointers to young receivers. He was dominating red zone drills. Kyle Shanahan himself called the Evans red zone situation the first time in years he has had a receiver who wins the jump ball matchup by himself without needing the scheme to compensate. None of that guarantees regular season production, but it strongly suggests a player who is motivated and engaged in a way that the limited game 2025 season with Tampa Bay simply cannot fully capture. The non-starter to no spotlight on Stribling is the final piece, and Aaron Schatz of ESPN made a specific and interesting point. Kyle Shanahan's offense has historically dominated in yards after the catch. Last season, Ricky Pearsall ranked last in the league in yak versus expectation. Mike Evans ranked second to last. The 49ers lost their yak identity at wide receiver because neither of those players is a yak specialist. Pearsall wins with route running and precise catch points. Evans wins with size and physicality. Where does the yak come from in 2026? Schatz's answer, Stribling. The 6'2", 4.4 speed second-round pick from Ole Miss, competing with Christian Kirk for slot snaps, may be the player who brings the yak dimension back to this offense. The chunk after catch plays that Deebo Samuel used to generate and that have been conspicuously absent.